This is your WCFW Daily News Roundup for 105.7 CFW in Chippewa Falls and 93.5 The Tap in Eau Claire.
For 105.7 CFW News, I'm James Kelly. The Fall Creek Public Library and Village Center project is nearing its fundraising goal after receiving significant grant funding for its Beyond Words campaign from the Pablo Foundation. According to a press release, the Pablo Foundation will award $30,000 in grant funding to the project, which library officials describe as a long-term investment in education, community connection, and civic pride. The project seeks to build a larger and more modern multi-use facility as the new home for the library and the Village Center. Library officials say their current facility lacks the space to accommodate nearly 1,000 card holders and the recommended number of books. It also doesn't meet ADA standards for residents with disabilities, and the restrooms are located outside the building, limiting its accessibility. The project was originally estimated to cost around $8 million, over half of which was covered by Flexible Facilities grant funding from the state. According to the library's website, the fundraising campaign has brought in over 90% of the funding needed, and construction work is already well underway. The Eau Claire Landmarks Commission voted to approve infrastructure upgrades for the baseball stadium at Carson Park this week. At its meeting on Monday, the commission unanimously approved a certificate of appropriateness that would allow for preservation work to be done on the grandstands to keep water from leaking through. The project would see repairs and replacements for deteriorating steel structures, improvements to surface draining, and the installation of waterproof coatings. Phase 1 of the planned work is currently scheduled to begin in August. State Senator Jesse James was officially sworn in as the new chief of the Lake Hallie Police Department on Monday. Senator James announced that he would not be seeking re-election this November last month before the village of Lake Hallie selected him for the position. They say he'll bring extensive law enforcement leadership experience to the position, having previously served as the chief of police in Altoona. Republican Michelle Megadance Skinner will now run for the 31st State Senate District, challenging incumbent Democratic State Senator Jeff Smith under new district maps. For 105.7 CFW News, I'm James Kelly.
With Civic Media News, I'm Terry Miller. A new trade agreement between the U.S. and China could bring relief to Wisconsin farmers who rely heavily on exports. Under the deal, China is expected to purchase large amounts of American agricultural products over the next few years. Soybean growers say they've been selling about half as much to China due to past tariffs, and any increase would be a big help. Ginseng producers say most of their crop still goes to China, but they're also exploring new markets. Some details of the deal, including how much each product benefits, are still unclear. The Republican candidate for governor says he supports an FBI investigation into the 2020 election. Speaking at an event Monday, Congressman Tom Tiffany said the probe should continue to determine if there were any problems, and if so, charges should be filed. Multiple reviews, recounts, and court rulings have already confirmed Biden's win in Wisconsin. Tiffany has previously voted to challenge election results in other states and said there were improprieties in 2020. He also says more changes are needed to improve election integrity. And a pair of Wisconsin students are heading to Washington, D.C. for the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Cromrie Middle School's Arnav Vempati earned a spot in the national competition after finishing second in the Badger State Spelling Bee. He is reportedly the first student from the Middleton Cross Plains School District to take part in the event. Vempati will be joined by Ethan Robert, an 8th grader from New Berlin Eisenhower, who won March's state competition. The National Spelling Bee starts next Tuesday at DAR Constitution Hall near the White House. More news can be found at civicmedia.us.
A chance for a sweep. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball tonight at Wrigley Field, Game 3 of the Brewers and Cubs. The Crew won again last night, 5-2. Jake Bauers with 2 hits and an RBI. Garrett Mitchell driving in a run. Bryce Terang, a 2-run homer in the 8th. And the Brewers starting pitcher, Jake Mizorowski, striking out 8 batters and said he was inspired by his teammates.
I saw the guys on the other side doing their job, so it was one of those things that I got to figure out my stuff and do my job on my side.
So the Brewers are now in first place, a half game ahead of Chicago, while the Cubs have now lost 4 in a row. What's their level of concern?
Well, we got 115 to go, and so they beat us the first two games. They beat us for sure, flat out. We got to come out and try to salvage a game.
That's Cubs manager Craig Counsell with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
It is going to be sunny, warmer, and not windy today. Our high in the low to mid 60s here this afternoon. Tonight, mostly cloudy. We'll drop into the upper 30s to low 40s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, low to mid 60s. And we're actually headed into a really nice Memorial Day weekend. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now 49.
That's your WCFW and the TAP Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at WCFW.FM or thetap.fm.